internet! With Qiuyuan's kit officially revealed, let's take a look at what he's all about. While he's designed like the most badass ninja samurai swordsman that should deal a bunch of damage, but yep, he is actually a support slash sub DPS. It might be a bit anticlimactic, but hey, he's still cool. But yeah, let's check out what he does now. Welcome to my Qiuyuan pre-release analysis. Hopefully it'll help you out in preparing for the most goated badass swordsman in the game. Without further ado, let's just start. We'll conclude on Qiuyuan generally. He's mainly an echo damage amplifier slash sub DPS slash general buffer, with a mix of echo damage and heavy attack damage to his kit, much like Galbrena. What makes him very nice to use is the combination of his various buffs, and more importantly, he has a very short field time, allowing you to cycle your team very quickly, which is a very important factor that makes a strong sub DPS buffer. Think about someone like Sanhua, right? Now then, let's first understand what buffs Qiuyuan brings to your team as a sub DPS slash support. The big synergy with Qiuyuan for Galbrena is with his outro skill. It amplifies the next Resonator's echo skill damage by 50%, which is quite the high amount, making it well suited for someone like Galbrena, given she also deals echo damage. On top of that, Qiuyuan's Resonance Liberation can provide up to 30% crit damage buff for your whole team if he reaches 65% crit rate. This is a general buff that anyone would appreciate, but Galbrena especially benefits off of this really good as well. Next off, based on his Forte circuit, Bamboo's Shade, if he reaches 400 points of his Forte, which basically means 2 bars under the 3, he will grant a team-wide 30% echo skill damage buff for a decently lengthy 30 seconds. The 30-second time period is designed so that you can use Qiuyuan's Liberation first the moment he steps in to gain the crit damage buff for everybody, including himself, then stand on field with him to deal damage and gain Concerto. That way you maximize his own damage output, which is solid, and after that you'll swap out to your main DPS. You will still have 15 seconds left of all the buffs to finish things off with your main damage dealer. Seems pretty intuitive. On top of all of these team-wide buffs, he still provides buffs to himself, which is through both his inherent skill. The first one provides a 50% damage increase for part of his attacks, and it also restores 30 points of Concerto energy, which is what mainly allows him to have very low field time. The 50% damage increase sounds insane, but don't expect him to just pull up with insane damage that he's a main DPS, at least not at S0. His second inherent skill allows Qiuyuan to gain a simple 10% self-attack buff too after casting Echo skill and gaining Forte. A pretty minute amount, but it's still there. And all of that explains the amount of buffing Qiuyuan brings to the table, and it is quite good. However though, in general, his main role will still be to buff echo damage, which is where the bulk of his kit lies. And that also means buffing Galbrena a ton. As for the rest of his kit and gameplay, Qiuyuan's main gameplay will be pretty classical, maximize his Forte first to unlock buffs and enhance his own kit for the team. Qiuyuan can hold up to 600 points of Forte, and his intro skill would already grant him 400 points. You can continue to do 2 basics and gain 600 points, which is more than enough to activate the 30% echo damage buff. Thereafter, Qiuyuan will enter an enhanced state, spend a Forte by performing 3 enhanced heavy attacks, which deals decent damage, plus these attacks will be considered as echo skill. This exact part is where it helps Galbrena gain Afterflame, making them even better paired with each other. It also activates Hakede's follow-up attacks if you do pair him with Frolova as well. However, do note that Frolova cannot benefit fully off of Qiuyuan's buff, since Frolova has to get off field. There are unique things happening with Qiuyuan's skill as well, which has a parry effect if you click it once at the right time. If you hold the skill though, you can hop on bamboos and travel pretty quickly. The parry does open up the outplay potential for some boss fights, which makes it even cooler to try mastering. With all that said, let's talk about his builds now, and we'll start with his weapons. His own is obviously going to be the best, which even has a team-wide echo skill damage buff to it. While that sounds incredible, I personally much more recommend staying with a good old standard 5-star as an alternative, because he does need some energy regen to be smooth, and it works perfectly with someone like Qiuyuan. There are other alternatives like going for Camellia's weapon, for example, but it's rare for that to be open for Qiuyuan, right? You could look at 4-star options like the battle pass ones like Feather Edge, but it's much better to just stick with the standard 5-star for Qiuyuan, if not his signature. For echo sets, Wuwa did prepare a new 3-piece Law of Harmony set just for Qiuyuan, so it's definitely going to be that, along with 2-piece Seragel, 2-piece Lingering Tunes, or even 2-piece Moonlight Clouds for the extra energy regen. Now, there is an alternative to all of that, which is to just go for 5-piece Moonlight Clouds, and yeah, you're usually gonna get that by stealing it from a whole Sanhua. You probably have one on her, and yeah, you could just use it, snag it for Qiuyuan if you want to. It is a valid enough choice since everything it provides is what Qiuyuan should be able to do in his kit, but then again, do expect Qiuyuan's own damage to not be the main contribution to his kit, right? You want him to mainly buff your main damage dealer, but I will say he does provide good damage though, so I still recommend going for the 3-piece Law of Harmony and the 2-piece damage based sets. In terms of the main echoes, it can be either Fenrico or the Nightmare Baringle for the arrow and heavy attack damage bonus, obviously. In terms of main stats, it looks to be the obvious crit rate, crit damage cost 4, arrow damage cost 3, attack percent cost 1. The more important stat goal will be to reach 65% crit rate with him as it maxes out the crit damage buff from his ult, and to go for around 130% energy regen. The more you have, the smoother his rotation gets, even with missed hits. With all of that out the way, it's time to finally talk about his potential team comps. The best one I think is very obvious. It's gonna be Qiuyuan with galbrena, along with a third buffer like Shorekeeper or Verita. I think Kuro made it quite obvious with showing the synergy between the two new characters, so yep, no complaints on that pairing. It's going to be Qiuyuan and galbrena. They work with each other quite well. Now, Qiuyuan can most certainly still be used with Frolova, but most people have already set up Frolova with Contorella and a healer for a team. There's not much reason to forcefully replace anyone in that team since Frolova is unable to fully benefit from Qiuyuan's buff when she goes off field. However, there is a very good solution to this, which it would be to have Qiuyuan replace the healer slash buffer slot and make a team consisting of Frolova, Contorella, and Qiuyuan. While that can most certainly work, you'll be playing with way less healing since you'll be, you know, replacing the Verita or Shorekeeper, but it can also be fun as heck because you definitely need very good mechanics to play this team well. Maybe that's why Kuro put a curious little parry effect on Qiuyuan's skill, huh? Imagine if you just use this team and decimate everyone without taking a single hit of damage and just keep parrying with Qiuyuan. That would actually make him look like the final boss. Now, the final consideration there are for teams is to play Qiuyuan as a main DPS along with Yuno as the sub DPS or buffer and Shorekeeper as the main healer or buffer. This is unfortunately not too strong unless you have the S3 of Qiuyuan unlocked, where you are looking at around 300% overall damage output increase with Qiuyuan as main DPS. That's only assuming you have S3 though. But even then, it's not exactly going to be the best team you'll ever see, but it sure looks the best since Qiuyuan slashes look more like a damage dealing beast than anything. And with all that said, here's the final verdict on Qiuyuan. I think Qiuyuan is honestly a decent pull for galbrena mains that really want the best for galbrena, but even then, when you do consider how Lupa is also able to support galbrena more than fine, Qiuyuan becomes way less of a must pull in my opinion. Given how Qiuyuan is not exactly the most versatile either in terms of the teams he'd fit well in, I think it's wiser to think twice here unless you really love the character, and I totally understand that too. His animations are to die for. He looks genuinely like the most nonchalant war samurai there is, and his attacks feel so nice to say. In the end, the best idea is to pull for who you love, but I will say saving for the next Chisa is 100% up on the table. I think she might be a big contention for resources, man. I sure as heck will be prioritizing her over anyone else. But it's so hard to pass on Qiuyuan though. He looks like such a badass. For Qiuyuan Wonders, I do think the best option here is to go ahead and grab that Qiuyuan, but have him stick with the standard 5-star weapon so you save a bit on pulse. And you can go all in on the next banner that's coming up as well, which do look like they are going to be really hyped too. What do you think about Qiuyuan, and will you be pulling for him? Do let me know in the comment section down below. I will say realistically, it's nice to not have a character that's like absolutely must pull or else you're just falling behind. I think these banners can be a breeder as well. They look cool enough that for people that really likes a character, they can most certainly pull for them and they'll still function well. There's absolutely no complaints with that. But for me though, he does look way too cool, man. Maybe I'll pull one copy. I'm making this video, I'm just thinking halfway through that I really want a character, dude. But bro, I don't have enough summons. Well, with all that said, that is all for now. I'll see if I have time to make like a full guide or some cool combos for you guys, and that'll be all. Take care.